Welcome to the Fun2000.com Real Estate Podcast. Today I've got Burton Tony from, is it Comfort Regulator?
Comfort Regulator, heating and cooling, yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay, welcome. And then we've got Oli, who's with our company, Sold2000.com Real Estate. And I'm Chuck Ham. I'm a broker and attorney. Burton, you and your company recently did an AC install on our condo, and we thought you did a great job. I thought the pricing was good.
Yes.
The pricing was good. The estimate process was straightforward. I didn't
Yes.
really have any questions. I appreciated that a lot. Oli was able to work with you quickly and efficiently, and we tried getting that kind of information from several of the other companies,
Yeah.
and it's always complicated. And wanted to hear about how you started your company, how you developed such a good process, straightforward process, transparent, things that we appreciate. So talk to us, tell us about your
Well,
company and what you do.
for me, being out of Trinidad and Tobago, it's like a friendly, we are kind of great, friendly people, get along great. I started back there as I work in the hotel industry. So working in the hotel industry, it gives me the opportunity to really be a people person. Actually, I studied for HVAC in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, where I did a complete everything HVAC. And then I did HVAC on the East Coast, Nantucket, Massachusetts. Doing HVAC on the East Coast is pretty much generated for that cold temperature. It gets really cold there. So it's a lot of different system, a lot of hydraulics, piping, boilers, oil burners and stuff like that. So I was able to really capture all of that, plus piping and doing all these big jobs. Moving to California was on cruise control. I'm like, all right, come on.
Mhm.
Um, but when I got here, I started to work for a company in Van Nuys, a big company. We've been together for 39 years. And I became one of the senior technician guys. I always had to run back, so I found myself having meetings with the bosses like, we got to be thorough when we really go in. We got to check everything. It's not just that we're going in to really do our maintenance, which is just pulling out a filter and checking that stuff. We got to know if the system is clean. We got to know if we move in the right amount of air. It's a new system. We got to check everything. And after doing that for about 4 years, I was like, you know what? I want to be responsible for anything that I touched. So
Mhm.
I studied and I got my contractor's license. Now we started the business in 2020, officially kicked off in 2021. So it's going on good for 4 years, fully running. It's not a huge crew. It's a crew that I could really do change out every day, you
Mhm.
know. My senior guy that does installation has been doing it for like 30 years. I've been doing it for 15 years.
Mhm.
But we don't just we install, we repair, we replace, we any issue that you have, whether it's temperature swing, rooms are hotter than some. I kind of study since I came to California, velocity of air, how much air comes from each duct, all of that stuff. As I was telling Oli, we got to change those duct out, but it gives me the opportunity to right size the right duct for the room, especially the furthest room being the master, the closest rooms being close, the grills that is on the wall, where the thermostat is located,
Mhm.
moving air, all of this stuff. And, yeah.
That was one of the things I appreciated about your work. We don't know anything about this, and I'm sure most of your customers don't know anything about this. But I think a lot of companies come in for a job like this. It's big, but they still do the minimal amount of work. So they
Yes.
don't change certain ducts. They don't
Yeah.
look at the ventilation like you did. You decided, oh, here's a room that is not getting ventilated not getting the cool air properly, and you installed a new vent right there,
Yes.
and obviously the duct that would go with it. You took responsibility for a good final product. And why do you think a lot of companies don't do that? Is it just because they're just trying to get it done quickly, or what?
I think it's knowledge, but not just knowledge. I think beside knowledge and you just want to get it done, I think they don't really think about going home and say, you know what, that customer is going to be happy.
Right.
That's the thing about me. I have to know when I go home and I lay in my bed in the night, I know I did 100% and more for that client. Because at the end of the day, my business is now growing because of a lot of
Mhm.
referrals, and people is like, wow, you're very straightforward, you're very knowledgeable, you know what needs to be done. I do not want to really just put in a new system and walk away, keep the ducks that is all trash. Or even if the ducks are great, are we moving enough air? Do we have enough air going through the system? Because we could put the greatest system in there and he's going to start falling apart in 6 months.
Yeah. How do you say you're growing and I'm sure you want to grow and but you're working with a small crew and you are probably involved with the majority of your jobs directly. So
Yes.
how do you grow? This is more like a business question. How do you grow and maintain the quality?
Well, I think the first year I started, I was like trying to figure this stuff out,
Hmm.
because you know how to do HVAC is one thing, but
Hmm.
then you got to start thinking about like marketing, Google, marketing on Yelp, and every year now, beside customer referrals, beside you're in the neighborhood and you're putting out flyers and all of that stuff, door handle flyers, just getting the word out one customer to the next. I do a lot of advertisement on Yelp. So if
Hmm.
Yelp, you search in Yelp, Comfort Regulator, it comes up all 5 star. Never really ask for reviews, but people just go and place it in there. We just get our website set up. That's still in process. Getting ready to do a lot more marketing on Google as itself.
Hmm.
So we're kind of doing that. And
Hmm.
at the same time, I try to be on every job because when I started is, as I said, I want to be responsible. I'm the one that goes out, see everything.
Hmm.
The installation day, I always get someone to really come in and do that work with me. I'm not overwhelmed right now. I want to be a little more overwhelmed, but at the same time, I still want to make sure that I have an eye on what's going on because I see the job. As I was telling Oli, I see the job. She was like, "You guys finish this in one day?" I'm like,
Hmm.
"Yeah," because I already saw what I wanted to get done when I came in and checked everything out. I already analyzed before I left my home or before I go to bed in the night. This is what we're doing tomorrow, and that's how I approach it all the time. I kind of take ownership of it and taking ownership of it and checking everything 3, 4, 5 times before you leave is knowing that you're just gonna pretty much go back to tweak on something or you're gonna go back to do maintenance. But as far as the system is working and saying, you know what, I'm not struggling anymore, you want to make sure you put in the equipment and it's done right. So that's my take on the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that was good. Oli, if you have any questions, you can jump into. I have got a few more too. Go ahead.
It wasn't a question. Like the first time I've met Burton was actually he kind of helped me with my real estate transaction. We had a real estate transaction where there was a small leak and my buyers wanted to inspect the AC, and we hired a company, and the company came and said, "Oh, you need to change the whole
Yeah.
AC system." And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, "Oh my gosh, my transaction right now is at jeopardy."
Yeah.
So we decided to do a second opinion, and Burton came, and everything was perfectly fine with AC. The only thing that needed to be done is just need to be flashed, or whatever it was. It was just a small little thing.
Yeah.
And I was thinking, okay, how horrible it was because we were at the point where people were telling us we need to change the whole AC,
Yeah.
and there were two AC units.
Yeah.
So that would be a huge expense, absolutely unnecessary expense. So do you remember, Burton, this transaction?
I'm trying to because I go through a lot of those every day because I know when I spoke to you, I was like, oh yeah, I'm connected with you from something before. Unless I really go in my folder, I could find it. But I
Well,
go to I go to that a lot. I go to that a
So
lot.
that's
Yeah.
why I personally, for myself,
Yeah.
was very confident to go with you because of this honesty that I saw in a completely different transaction. So it's
That that was also one of the reasons because, as I said, I was working with a company before, and the brainchild, they were like, okay, your system is designed to say run 18 years, right? That's a manufacturer's lifespan. It could go more than that. It's all about staying maintenance, replacing your filter, keeping the system clean. That's what it is, right? Some people upgrade after 18 years because of efficiency, better equipment comes out, right? Some people not ready to do that yet. But once it's working, it's working. You just know that the efficiency is lower, but it's cooling and it's heating the home. It's you got to know, listen, I need to get a better efficient system and stuff like that. But I remember with the company that I used to work for, they were, they had a mentality like, you go in there, you see your age, you see this. Do you want to stress about this? Do you want that? They need a new system. And I'm like, that's not the right mentality to have.
That's
So
been our experience. And I
yeah,
don't like that.
uh,
That people don't want to hear that.
it's not the right experience to have because I personally said, like my in-laws, they called me up and said they have a neighbor, she's having a problem with the system. The house is like, and this was a very busy time last year. The house is like 90 degrees, elderly lady, and they says, Brittany, you got to go over there and see what's going on. I'm coming from Lancaster. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go to LA. So I just drove down there and she says, the guy was here about 2 hours ago. He says, you need a new system. It's done. I said, okay, give me a moment. Let me see what's going on. Turn it on. So, so she turned it on and I was like, I heard the compressor going on the roof, right? So I'm like, he says the compressor is dead, but it's running.
Mhm.
Okay, so when I got up there, I realized the fan is not running. So I took a little stick and I spin the fan, and then it starts moving, right? And I'm like, the fan is fine. The problem is you need a new capacitor, a capacitor that drives the compressor and the fan. This is what you need. And the only other thing I see, the system is really filthy and we just need to clean it out. She's like, oh my God. I say, yeah, I got one in my van. I got it. And she said, it's a big difference in just changing that capacitor to changing the whole entire system that they wanted me to spend $16,000 for. Here's your bill. It's 250. Have a good day. You know, and she's like, it's been running perfectly fine all the time. It wasn't about that. It's like some people we just got to be honest within ourselves.
But isn't there a different perspective here? I mean, obviously, you still have to make a living here, right? So you just drove all the way from Lancaster to Los Angeles. You can
Mhm.
understand why these companies they want to make the bigger sale because they're also doing the same kind of thing. They need to make the money and the $250. How do you make a living for the big trip? Or are you just thinking long term because you know that you're getting that you're building that clientele?
You have to think long term.
Yeah.
You have to think long term. You understand? That's very, very important because not just long term goes with your name.
Hmm.
Understand your reputation. That's what it goes with. So are we in it for short? I got kids. My son is interested in HVAC. I mean, this is where we at. But you have to carry your name and you have to carry that honesty. Yes, I drove all the way to LA. Well, it cost me how much on gas. But guess what? The lady was like, I know a guy.
Yeah.
I know this guy. I know
Hmm.
this guy. And that's what it is. That's
Yeah.
what it is. It's not just always about this and about that. But by the time you turn around after 5 years, 6 years, you'll be like, wow, I'm getting overwhelmed right now. But it's
Hmm.
overwhelmed with good
Right.
reviews. You know what I'm saying?
I think people, yeah, exactly. I think people are, and I guess this is a company mentality, business mentality is more love of money than love of people, love of serving humanity. And I think that's one thing we liked about you and your service. Um, other question I want to get into is the technology. It's increasing,
Mhm.
technology is improving very quickly, but we also have this energy efficiency situation. The cost of energy is going up. So you might actually have more reasons to replace an entire unit, even if it's working, just because of that efficiency problem,
Right.
the cost of energy problem, and then of course people are installing these battery Tesla walls, and I don't know if those
Mhm.
things can run an AC. Can you talk to us about the technology and the things that you're seeing and why it might make sense for people to just go ahead and replace the whole unit?
Well, in like in California, we kind of pretty much go into a lot of they're trying to phase out the fact of using a lot of gas. So
Hmm.
they go in, as you said, electrical, which means brings us into the heat pump phase, right? The heat pump is all generated by electricity. So you want to heat the home, is the outside guy. That guy outside, he has to switch from heat to cool, sending the heat, hot air inside on the coil, stuff like that. Now, when we talk about energy, like seasonal energy efficiency ratio, we call it SEER ratings, right? The higher the SEER ratings is more expensive the equipment is, but what it does is it draws less amperage to run. So
Hmm.
a 21 SEER system is going to cost less amperage to run. But now you got to start thinking, what do I need for SEER ratings compared to what depends on my home size? You
Hmm.
understand? Then you have two-level homes. All the bedrooms upstairs, then you got living room and kitchen downstairs. Then you talk about zoning system, two thermostat. All of that things comes into play on the whole efficiency thing. So here's the thing. If you have a system that is 18 years and above, then you know you're at the low stage of that efficiency. Efficiency comes back to the fact of what kind of fan motor is moving the air inside, right?
Hmm.
What kind of compressor you have outside. So when it comes to efficiency, we pretty much start to think about, all right, we're getting out of the gas phase, but now we are running more electricity. So now that we're running more electricity, the outdoor unit is taking the hit for everything now. You remember back when you have furnace, gas, and AC, the outdoor unit only comes on pretty much when you want AC at that hotter time of the year, right? So he's gonna rest for maybe about 5 months, just saying, right? Then you got the furnace inside, gas and stuff like that. Now, when you turn to heat pump, because that's the energy efficiency thing California is going with right now, that's where we go in. The outdoor unit is going to take the hit on everything. Now it brings you back to that maintenance. You got to stay on top of that stuff because there's only one guy, that one guy outside that is responsible for AC heat, AC heat. He's running pretty much 11, 10 months out of the year, you know.
Hmm.
Um, all these other equipments and then brands are brands, tomatoes, tomatoes, you know what I'm saying? That's what I say. They all carries the same warranty. All equipments, most manufacturers carry the same warranty and all of that stuff. It's all about how it's installed. It's all about are we moving enough air? You know what I mean? Because it's like, listen, you could go on a treadmill, you could put two masks on, you're struggling. If you
Hmm.
take one mask off, and then circulating air through the house is going to bring more comfort, you know.
Hmm.
So things are changing,
Hmm.
but when do you change? When do you, as the homeowner, say that you need to replace stuff? It's really old. It's old. It's over 18 years. It's up there. It's 25. It's 30 years old. It's not really, it's costing a lot more to run, right?
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
causing a lot more energy to run, electricity in the summertime. Um, Here's the next thing. You start having component failures.
Hmm.
You ain't got no choice there. You got to start thinking, you know what, I got to replace this thing.
Hmm.
And when you replace it, then you starting at SEER ratings right now is 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. It's going up. Higher SEER ratings, more expensive the equipment is. But what do you need for your home? you know. Uh, then here's the next thing, John. You could install the best equipment in the house, but your insulation is crap. You
Hmm.
don't have in the hardest time of the summer, you ain't got no sunshades up because
Hmm.
you got to help the equipment.
Hmm.
So all of that stuff is comes
Yeah.
under that umbrella of efficiency.
I think our electric bill last summer or the previous summer was getting up to $300 or $400 a month. Was it Oli or something like that
It
for?
was over $400 a month.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
do you think we'll cut that in half based on what you
I
saw?
think you will cut it in half because of what I told her is you guys have a better duct system in the attic, more
Mhm,
insulated.
mhm,
There's no air leakage on the box where the ducts come off, right? Now we kind of placing air evenly across the house where it's needed. The thermostat is closest to the return. The grills where the air comes out are not baffling anymore. It's going across the room. So what happens is, and the motor on the system is much more updated, right? So what happens now is what it does is moving air right grills thermostat getting to the temperature, it cuts down on the runtime of the system.
mhm.
Now, the more the system run as an older system, clicking, clicking, clicking is more you're spending, right? So that's what it is. So when I came in and I say, you know what, yeah, we got to replace it. I'm like, Ollie, you know what? That duct, she said, yeah, we got to replace that. I said, yeah, we got to replace that ductwork, because what you had upstairs was like pretty much dryer vent ducting, like
Oh yeah.
metal with just some insulation around it. And so by removing that, it gives us the opportunity to upsize master. I I added a vent in a bathroom because I need to make sure I'm getting 50% of air going in, 50% of air going out. I don't need to install the system and have it start failing on us months in, like blower motor gone, this, that, you know what I mean? Mechanically, equipments fail by 3% on the manufacturer side. It happens, but at the same time, you got to make sure when you install it, you start thinking about everything, bringing up the efficiency. The longer, even if you had imagine you had a mercury thermostat on the wall,
Hmm.
the old school thing. It's going
Yeah.
to take a longer time to get to the set point. All of that is what carries up the bill with your electricity is the system is not charged enough. It doesn't have enough refrigerant. You don't have the right grills to move air. You're leaking air in the attic, stuff like that. Um, no shades when it's on the hottest day. So the system just keeps running constantly. A new system and what we did would really improve that excessive runtime what you guys had last year.
A lot of times there is some kind of a programs, California programs. Do you work with anything like that where there's like money back for the efficiency stuff?
It does happen now where they get a lot more on the heat pump sides. You know what I mean? Because that's the benefit California is pushing for you to get or what do you call it there, incentive back, stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it has to be on most of the time. What I ran into is on the heat pump side. Like perfect example, a month ago, rebates. This client wanted to get rebates back, and what was to happen though is these are all the criterias that they really require you to get like rebates back from companies on the heat pumps, because that's what they push it. Here's the thing about it: what all the thing that is required to really fall under that umbrella is it's a heat pump, your duct work. How is your duct work? They want to make sure all of that is set up, all of that is permitted and all of that good stuff. So most of it I've seen, it's more like on the heat pump side. I've done a few of those where the customer had was to, we did it and then they got rebates back and all of that stuff. So it happens, but I've noticed it keeps happening more on the heat pump aspect.
Burton, how do people find you, contact you, and hire you?
Comfort Regulator heating and cooling. You could Yelp it, Google
Yep.
it, it's gonna come up. My number is 661-312-1185.
I recommend Burton and Comfort Regulator. It's a good experience, good, honest, transparent process, efficient installation. 1 day is all it took.
Yeah.
I highly recommend them, and I encourage you to reach out to Burton and Comfort Regulator. Thanks for joining us today, Burton and Oli.
Welcome. Thank you guys for having me. All right, Oli. Bye, guys.